the big name targets. I know we talked about it a little bit, like here and there, but there was a little mention from Amari that Pistons could be looking at like a Lauri Markkanen, who we've talked about ad nauseum, and Kawhi Leonard. I know he's a player that you talked about this season on this podcast. So, I mean, when you look at those two names, I mean, like, do you think that's kind of like the archetype they're looking for?
So it's interesting because obviously they're both front court players. Kawhi Leonard, who has played smaller power forward throughout his entire career, and then Lauri Markkanen, who's pretty much just a power forward. He might have to play some small forward minutes if he stays in Utah with Jaren Jackson and Walker Kessler, but that's another conversation. I think archetype is interesting. I think they fit a certain mold of player where Kawhi, you look at him, and obviously, like, it goes without saying that is a two-way player, right? Like, that's a guy who can make things happen on both ends of the floor. He dropped, what was it, like 55 against you in Intuit Dome this year. He had, I think, probably his best regular season of his career this year, where he played a lot of games for the Clippers. He shot really efficiently. He scored a lot. It was a year where Paul George wasn't there. It was a year where even James Harden wasn't there by the halfway point. Zubac wasn't there, and they still made the play in and almost the playoffs as well. So Kawhi, the kicker with Kawhi is obviously that he's 35 years old. He's dealt with injury issues throughout his entire career. That being said, you get a healthy Kawhi even for one season, because I believe his contract would be coming up as well pretty soon here. I think it's in a year or 2 years. Regardless, I think if you can get Kawhi for the right price, you would happily take Kawhi Leonard. The other part of Kawhi Leonard is, will Kawhi Leonard want to play in Detroit? Right? Obviously, he didn't want to play in Toronto, and they won the championship, and whatever. That's cool. But being on the older side of things, you don't really know how that is going to end up. If there's a Kawhi Leonard who walks into Detroit, like, I don't really want to be here. I don't really, have any interest in doing this. And then there's obviously the whole scandal with him that still technically hasn't reached a conclusion yet. There's a lot of factors around Kawhi Leonard that might scare someone away. But if we're looking just from a basketball standpoint, it makes complete sense, right? Like, you would have a starting lineup with Asar Thompson and Kawhi Leonard. Good luck, right? Good luck, NBA. Good luck, Eastern Conference. That's a team you expect to play significant minutes in June, if that were to happen, and if Kawhi and Asar and Cade and everybody were to remain healthy. That's a huge one. That's obviously, like, talk about big fish. Like, that might be potentially the biggest fish that the Pistons could land this summer. And if he's available, because that's also part of it. We still don't know what the Clippers' direction really is. Obviously, they have a top 5 pick in this year's draft, but they still don't really have control over their future. There's a lot of uncertainty around the direction of this team. And then obviously Steve Ballmer's not someone who's really eager to kick the can and be like, okay, it's time to rebuild, retool, whatever that may be, and let's get rid of the guy that is currently putting butts in seats in our brand new arena, which I was able to be in this year, which I had mixed opinions about, but it is very technologically impressive, and the whole atmosphere outside of the arena I thought was the best part of it. Neither here nor there, but that's someone who's a big name, right? And that's really important for the Clippers franchise. So we'll see if they actually do look to move him. But if they do, I do fully expect the Pistons to at least make a phone call. Same for Lauri Markkanen. We've pretty much said all we could say about Lauri Markkanen at this point. Can score the ball really well. He's played under JB Bickerstaff already. I don't think his current level of defense would probably be able to be accepted by JB, knowing how JB really emphasizes the defensive end of the game. And then also the fact that he can't really sustain not being at least an average defender in the postseason, because it's an easy way to get attacked, and it's an easy way to give up points. And this is a team that really makes its money on the defensive end of the game. So I think Lauri Markkanen, his flaws in this community have really been pointed out a lot, but what doesn't get enough credit and doesn't get enough attention is the fact that he is an extremely talented offensive player. He is a winner, even though he hasn't made the playoffs. In a few years, it's ultimately not his role. He's not ever going to be your 1A on a championship team. That's what you have Kate Cunningham for. But can he be a second option? I think he can. And I think if you get him in that type of environment, and I think you get him in Detroit, and you put him next to Cade, and you put him next to Asar and Duran, I think he opens up a lot for Duran as well. Um, I think that's a really good move for the Pistons. It depends, obviously, how much that's going to cost, because Lord knows what Danny Ainge is going to try to pull, and a Lauri Markkanen trade, especially at like kind of the height of his value. But that's someone who I definitely think could be a difference maker for the Pistons. I don't know if I see him getting traded. The only way I really can see that happening is if the Jazz end up picking Cameron Boozer.
Yeah, it like both players are unique in like talking about them and like the pathway of possibly getting them. Like Kawhi, like you mentioned, one more year at 50 million, and does he want to leave California? I'm not sure. What happens with the Clippers? You lost James Harden because you didn't want to re-sign him. What kind of happens just with their trajectory of how they want to compete in the Western Conference? It's really strong. And the aspiration stuff as well. It's just like you don't really know what's gonna hang over there, but it'll be interesting. Lori, to me, I know Danny wants a SAR, but that's not gonna happen. Like
No,
we
no
already
shot.
we
Yeah.
already know that's not gonna happen. But I mean, I think you can get to a pathway with Lori. And I think some Pistons fans, we talk about all these big names, like you have to add valuable players in these trades. And there may be some fan favorites that might be in these trade packages like all offseason long that you're probably rolling your eyes at, you're probably getting annoyed at. But like to get good players, you have to give up good players and draft capital. So, I mean, I think both players make a whole lot of sense. I would love the pick and pops between Laurie and Kate. I'm not even going to lie to you. I think it would be
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, I think that would be an incredible fit. I think he's such a seamless fit on this team. The questions around him ultimately aren't outside of the defensive end of the game. Like they're like, oh, his contract expensive, this, that, the other. I think Lauri Markkanen's such a dream fit for the Pistons. He's someone who I still think his best basketball is ahead of him. I know like people will be like, oh, he's 27, he's 28, or I think he's 28. Um, that's in the prime of your career, man. Like especially in today's NBA. Like I look at Laurie as someone who really could stick around and fit the timeline of the Detroit Pistons, which still matters, right? Like, this is still a young team, and you want to ultimately go out and get someone who's going to fit that timeline, which is also part of why I think Kawhi maybe makes less sense now than he did last year, especially knowing how Trajan approaches things like this. I think one thing that's repeatedly been said is that Trajan and the Pistons front office in general are looking for someone that they can believe in long term. And I think that definitely affects like who you look at for the Pistons this offseason in terms of trades or whatever. Because I doubt you take someone who you don't know is going to be there next year, especially knowing how this front office moves financially, how they move in terms of just having some level of control on things. You look at the contracts they've given out the last few years. Duncan Robinson has a team option. Karis LeVert was a pretty controllable contract. Tobias Harris was a really short-term contract. Even Malik Beasley back in the day, 1 year, $6 million deal. Like guys like that kind of had some form of optionality around them, to use his favorite term. Um, I think that definitely impacts how you look at things. And I think that's also a reason why Detroit would especially be interested in Lauri Markkanen.
I mean, his contract's not too bad. It's like 40-ish million the last time I looked. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like 45, 46, which, I mean, it's not unbearable. Like, I think it's a contract where, like, yeah, he's not the best defender, but I think people kind of over exaggerate his defense in a sense where, yes, he can be a traffic cone at times, but at least he can move his feet a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. He like, and also the guy is like 6'10", right? Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if you want, there's ways to use a guy like that where he's able to make a difference on the defensive end of the game. Like he can change things Not saying he's ever going to be an all defensive guy or qualifying for defensive player of the year or anything like that, but he is someone that with his size, he can make a difference. And knowing JB, he can get creative in how he uses him as a defender. Obviously, the emphasis will be on the offensive end of the game where the Pistons severely lacked this season. I also think like the two-man game between him and Jalen Duren could potentially also be like a really big win. Um, I look at Duren kind of getting the worst of the matchups, right? Like anytime there's a bigger lineup, you look at Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, for instance. You got a lot of attention around Jalen Duren because he's a bigger guy. But you have a bigger power forward next to him where you have a 6'10", 6'11" Lauri Markkanen, and that also attracts a lot of attention where it opens up things for Jalen Duren. And then that's also a guy for Jalen Duren to have some form of two-man game with. Markkanen can make plays passing the ball. Duren can make plays passing the ball. I think that's also definitely a move. Not that it's really a question, but if you're really investing in Jalen Duren long term, I think Lauri Markkanen's totally a guy you look at.
Yeah, I mean, imagine all the threes that Tobias was getting, and then just kind of supplement that with Lauri Markkanen and the 20 points a game that he was averaging with Utah. I mean, it would open up the offense completely. Again, I don't know if Utah trades him. I'm not sure. Why would you trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. if you're just going to offload on Lauri Markkanen? Kind of seems like Utah is in a position where we want to compete. We want to start winning games because obviously the lottery hasn't been too kind to us, even though they just got the second or third overall pick. It'll be interesting to kind of see what their trajectory and outlook is going into next season.